Give me your best Dick Barton story. Other than the one we just saw. Maybe
yeah. Well, it irritates him to beat him, but we've run together a lot of times, all through the sportsman time. I don't know. We've had probably some of the times we had at Pennsboro. A lot of times we traveled together, done a lot of racing at Sharon back in the old days, every Friday night. That's the thing with today. You just don't find people that would haul that way 3 nights a week to race. You know, I mean, but. Sharon, we spent a lot of time there, a lot of time at Raceway 7.
And how? In what capacity were you with him?
I just owned a car. We usually raced against him.
Right.
When we went to, I mean, back in the early days, the 80s, it was Rick Briggs driving my sportsman car, which was very competitive, and so was Dick. Then we went late model. Dick had a lot more success than we did. I did a year with Steve Halpenny there, taking care of his car, and then Chubb and I started racing. Traveling around. Of course, there's quite a rivalry with Dick and Chubb, you know. I mean, that went on for years and years and years. I mean, but I'm talking 88, 89. Then I bought the tire business in 90. And I started selling tires at State Line in Erie, and Chubb went racing. And then, of course, I got back into it in the limited late with my cousin Brian. He ran a couple years, and then I got Matt Urban to run, and we did a lot of winning in the limited late, and we did a lot of winning in the late model too. Matt was very good. Then he left partway through 2000, the latter part of 2000, and I got, which Rich and I had always talked about doing something together if the opportunity arose, and that's when it did. So actually Rich drove Conneaut to finish out the year for me, and Doug Eck was buying the car, so he drove State Line in Erie. At the end of the year, I sold it and put a new one together. And Rich and I raced that fall 10 times, and then we've been running ever since. Well, number one, he never quits. You know, I mean, he just digs, and that was very obvious the last night when he won his 80th race. I mean, he wasn't giving up, you know. He's just very talented. He doesn't wreck a lot. Like Rich, you know, he doesn't wreck a lot. I mean, Rich is nowhere as aggressive now as what he used to be. But back when we had 2 or 3 cars, you could be pretty aggressive. Nowadays, you're running the same one all the time because I'm not, you know, I can't see having 2 or 3 this point in time, you know. Anybody, if it's an 8-lap race, make sure you run 8 laps. 25-lap race, you run 25. Don't wreck yourself out in 4 and park it because then you didn't gain nothing. And that's the only way you're going to learn is complete all the laps. So I've never even figured up really how many late model wins or championships I got as an owner, but I know we have a lot of them. But some people are just aren't drivers. I've never been a driver, right? My first car I built in 1978, Craig Briggs drove it, you know, and he drove for me till 81, and then Rick drove from there, and it's just, but I've won point championships with all of them, you know. So Matt and I did 98, 99. We won State Line Series in the circuit back-to-back years. So, and he was a finisher, you know. I mean, he always finished. In fact, we won Erie points without winning a race, you know, which has been done before. But and then Rich and I kind of continued that on at Erie for 5 years. It was so that went well. Now I don't put as much emphasis on it as what I used to, you know. Now I'd take 5 feature wins a year and finish 10th in points any day, you know. But yeah, it's about the money. Working on a farm in Lottsville for Agnes and Stub Baker, and they didn't have any kids. I worked there from the time I was 8 years old to I was 16, and they started taking me to races. About 69, I can recall back to pretty good. 70, I remember real well. Paul Hellman, he was my hero, you know, and built some model cars of his stuff, and they were on display down at Raids when he had the Chrysler garage down 2nd. And I think it was the last night in 70 when he won that 100-lapper. Ballsy took me out for a ride in the car. First time I'd ever been out there. Yeah, in that Roadrunner. Yeah, Bobby Walls. Yeah, he took me for a ride. Yep. Of course, there wasn't nothing to sit on. You just sat down on the floor and hung on. Yeah, and then I had a cousin, Gary Fosberg, Frosty,
Yep.
which I talked to a lot, and he was always had Bob, worked with Bobby's stuff and did a lot with them guys. So probably when Matt and I won that Mac show at Conneaut, I mean we'd never done that before, that was a good win. Rich had we'd run really good there and hadn't won forever. And we won the Fall Fest race, the one at the end of the year. And that little show at McKean County, that Saturday afternoon show we won, that was a big one. That was a good one. We had a really good car that day. Back in the days with Matt, and I expected to win. I mean, my expectations were real high. And I used to get pretty feisty when we didn't. I could throw a pretty good temper, but now, I mean, we had that bad wreck at State Line this year, and Rich got wounded up there a little bit, and they took him in and just hauled it home and tore it down, put a clip on, put it back together. I mean, it wasn't just all you can do with it, really. You can't get. Of course, people tried to tell us that when we were young too. Take it easy; it'll all fold out. Now you try to tell people that, but it don't. You just got to live through it.
Do you have any regrets, Toby? Because you've got so much talent. You could have done anything in your life.
Yeah.
With the skills that you have.
I could have headed to Charlotte when Craig did and probably done anything, yes, at that time.
Exactly.
But you know what? I like it here. I like it around here. State Line is everything to me. That's why I like to see it go on, I love the racing, the people. You move out of town, you lose track of all them people. Met a lot of good people in racing. I wouldn't know you. I probably wouldn't know Rich Gardner. I mean, first time he came to me for any work was 1985. I didn't know him. And that's what I tell people, I mean, you don't know. Everybody starts out, they have a tough time. I can remember when Rich struggled, some people just, it takes longer to get it than it does some people. And they struggle, and, they just got to remember that when you go through, you start out, you get lapped, and then you go through some time when you're on top of the game, and then at the end of your career, sometimes you don't hit it again, and it's up and down all the time. Up and down all the time. That's why you got to really enjoy the good time.